the data channel, and you're watching SQL Data Camp for data professionals. And as part of this video, we will be discussing CSV data parsing specifically using SQL. So the data, it can be in different formats, like it can be in JSON, CSV, right, and XML, and several different formats, right? But ultimately in this particular series we want to show how we can use SQL to kind of parse this data and can get the structure out of this particular columnar structure out of the CSV data or any XML data or JSON data, right? So we will discuss that, especially the CSV parsing in this particular video. And what we'll be discussing is the option A, which is a bulk upload a CSV file, and option B, where we want to parse the data which is already there in a column in a CSV format. That is, there is a column in table, and that particular column is having a comma separated values, right? And you want to parse that and separate those comma separated values into different columns, right? So, and this is interesting, right? So this particular option A that we are discussing, like suppose you want to insert a values, several different hundreds and thousands of values into a particular table. And most of the times what we do is we create a insert statements for the data in the Excel, right? It might be that you have a data in the Excel, or you might be having a data in Notepad plus plus, and you create a insert statements for that, and then you try to execute that insert statement into the CSV. And yeah, that's one of the option of doing it, but that has a effort of creating the insert statement and also to running that insert statement. And there is a shortcut for that. You can use a bulk upload CSV as well. So this is actually a kind of a parsing that you are doing and uploading the file into a table, right? And the second option is anyway the data is already there in a particular column as a CSV. So that how do we parse it? So both the options we'll be discussing in this video. Before proceeding, if you're new to this channel, we would recommend you to please subscribe and also press bell button for instant notifications. So let's get started. So we'll be jumping directly into the practicals to understand how exactly this two options that we were discussing will look like, right? And let's see, we have a table, right? So we have a column 1, column 2, column 3 in this particular table, and we want to load a CSV file. So this, how does the CSV file look like? The CSV file looks like this, right? Column 1, column 2, column 3, and this column 1, column 2, column 3 had to go into this table, and we have a record in this file.csv file. So once we have this records in this file.csv, how do we kind of load that, right? And we just need to give the path here, right? In my case, I will just give the path of it. I'm having the file in a desktop, so that's why I'm giving the file, this file.csv CSV in the path of that. And as you can see, the uh, important thing here is to give a comma as a value here. So this is a delimiter which works as a delimiter, because in the file that we were seeing, right? So the comma acts as a delimiter because this is a CSV file, right? And the row delimiter is what? It is /n. So whatever it is going the next line, right, from here to here and here to here. So that is a /n character. Okay. So that is why we are giving as a /n. And first row, like, skips the first row if it's a header. So how many rows you want to skip, right? So that's what you can give here. Like in this case, if it is 1, I will give it as 1, right? And I can just execute this. So as you can see here, this is giving some error. Let me try with 2. Yeah, so I'm able to execute that. That means skips the first row if it is a header. That is a standard value that we need to give as a 2 here. Okay, first row means you have to give it 2 because it's considering it as a 2, right? And then if I try to query this, so now if I try to execute this and see, we have all the 5 rows that we were seeing in the CSV file. So all these 5 rows have been inserted into this table, And as you see, the command that we used is like this bulk uploader, and as we were discussing, so this is this these separators are important here, whether it is a column separator or whether it is a row separator. So these are very important. Okay. And so this is best one of the best example where you can use the CSV file, right? And there is one more example that we want to show, like the data is already there into a kind of a uh, in a row in a particular column as a CSV, right? So how do we handle that scenario? So let us see how that table looks like. So let's suppose I have a table here, and it, as you can see, the column CSV column is already having a CSV data. So how do I segregate this into a separate columns, or how do I parse this CSV data, right, which is already there in a column? Okay. So to do that, there are two ways. One is definitely using a string split method, okay, for simple parsing. So this is very simple parsing where you can use a string split method. So here what it is actually doing is which can it can split a string based on a delimiter. However, this particular string split function that we have, right, this particular function that we have here is returning a table of rows. So you'll need to have a row number to kind of it's like a window function, like, right, and or join to get individual parts of a CSV into a data column, basically, right? So if you see this, what exactly we are doing is like we are using the from CSV data, the table name, and we are doing a cross apply function. We are using a cross apply function here to kind of split that string which is having that column with a delimiter as comma here. And once it gives the data back, so what we are using is we are using a row number or partition by ID, right, and order by select null as row number. So if I try to execute this, and so this is giving the data, right, and after that what you're doing is you're selecting a ID and then row num. So row num is like, so when this is a row num, right, we are selecting here, so it is taking the row num from this particular value. So maximum row nums will be like 3 in this case, right? Like that's why we are selecting 1 2 3. So in each row will be split into each 3 different row nums, right? And each row nums we are selecting it as a one particular different columns. Okay, and we are doing a group by ID. Let's try to execute and see, right? So this is how we were able to see that data. So basically, if you see that this is a table that we had, right, and from this to this the data has been splitted. Okay, so this is what we call it as a CSV parsing, which is there in the same column, and same can be done in with one more simple example. So I think, so this is the second option is more simple than the first option, but again here what we are doing is we are using some different options using a char string, char index basically. So substring and char index are two functions that we are using here. So substring we are taking, and um, so we are giving a CSV column, the column actual column that holds that CSV data, and then char index. So but here, like what we are doing is we are doing an index, we are taking an index, right? That means we are referring to the index of 0 1 2, and we are hard coding that value here. Okay, but to do this we need to be exactly sure that there are exactly 3 columns, right? So with if you are sure that this particular CSV column holds exactly 3 values, so you can still use this and use this kind of char index and all the other options, right? So this is the other way of doing it. So basically, if I want to explain this, right, so substring is basically extracting the substring, like example like first name, last name, and age based on the position of the comma. Like so here, which, like based on the comma position, so it will be able to identify whether it is first index or +1 index or -1 index, right? And what char index is doing is it finds the position of a character in a string. Okay, so you are giving a character this particular comma, where exactly this particular comma is present in this, right? So it is able to extract that, and it able to locate the comma in the CSV data, at which position that particular comma is present, right? So these are the two options that we shown actually for the data. And so if we quickly go back to the PPT that we were discussing, right? So what we were saying is, like, we use bulk upload to parse the CSV file and directly upload it. And if the data is already there in a CSV data column format, so we had two options to demonstrate how we can split the data. So it is better to practice this, and then you can understand it is very easily, right? So hope this was useful. Thanks for watching.